But Julie Watts is back on the fire lines tonight for a second day. She's in the town of Swanton. Julie?
That's right. Yesterday we came to you from the town of Bonnie Doon, a very well-populated area that was the focus of the fight yesterday. Well, today that firefight has shifted, and so have we. As you mentioned, we're in the town of Swanton. As you can see behind me, a very active firefight going on. In fact, most of the mountains around me are actually on fire, at least a portion of them. There are too many water-dropping helicopters around here to really count. And where I'm standing right now is literally the fire line. It's Swanton Road, and firefighters are actually letting the mountains burn to my left while trying to save the homes to my right, something many around here are very grateful for.
They literally saved probably two of our dwellings yesterday, and it was quite a firefight from what I understand.
Brian Dietrich is the director of Swanton Ranch, an extension of the Cal Poly campus here in Swanton just off Highway 1.
And they realize this is a historic building. It used to be an old one-room schoolhouse that was built in the early 1900s.
Lucky for him, firefighters are working to save this little piece of history, making the ranch property line their new containment line.
So the fire's going to slowly burn down. It's like a controlled burn almost, coming down the hillside. We're going to stop it at the road and not let it pass the road.
It marks the intersection of two containment lines, by far the most active firefight today.
As long as the wind is on our side, which it is right now, it's blowing uphill, we're all good.
Firefighters tell us that on this fire line, this is exactly what they want to see. It's basically the underbrush burning all the way down this mountain. The reason this is okay is because the fire has yet to get up into the tops of these trees, and that's what they're hoping to prevent. Once it does, by nature of the climate, these trees are very oily and very flammable, and that's when you get a very dangerous situation.
It'll just jump from tree to tree. It becomes a lot hotter fire and more of a chance of spotting on it.
And that's when they move the firefight from the ground to the air. Where the fire is spread to the treetops, a full air assault is underway. But no matter how much water they dump on the flames, the fate of this fire is largely controlled by the winds.
Worst case scenario, right now, wind change. Wind change directions and it just blows over us.
And unfortunately for firefighters and for Swanton Ranch, winds are forecasted to shift back towards them this evening. Now, Cal Fire doesn't expect to have this fire contained until August 23rd at the earliest. That's 9 days and numerous weather patterns away. The winds could do anything before that. Coming up at 6, we'll talk more about the winds and how they are impacting this firefight today. Back to you.
All right, going to be a long weekend for them. Thanks, Julie.
Julie Watts is in Swanton, one of the two towns where there are mandatory evacuations in effect. Julie?
Yeah, yesterday we were in Bonnie Doon, that other town, but today the most active firefight is here in Swanton. In fact, you can see it going on right behind me. Pretty much all of the mountains around us are on fire. We're seeing plenty of water-dropping helicopters making trips back and forth to the ocean. We're right off Highway 1. Back to these mountains over here. Where I'm standing right now is literally the fire containment line. It's Swanton Road, and firefighters are basically letting the fire burn to my left while trying to save homes to my right. But the biggest problem this evening is the wind. Now, the overall wind direction is onshore, so essentially pushing the flames closer to these homes. But as Daniel Berlant from Cal Fire explains, we're in the middle of a canyon, and in the middle of a canyon, that overall wind direction is kind of a moot point.
Once the wind gets blown through one canyon, it almost swirls around in different directions.
Wind
changes and everything comes this way really fast.
It's a hot topic for firefighters battling the Lockheed blaze. For firefighters on the ground, it doesn't really matter whether the wind blows onshore or off. These canyons create wind directions of their own. Firefighters here are at the mercy of the winds, and worst case scenario is simply a gust away.
Worst case scenario, right now, wind change. Wind change directions and it just blows over us.
But for these heroes in yellow, they're less concerned about what that means for their safety and more concerned about protecting the folks who live here.
Well, we got the old schoolhouse here that's a historical building, and so Mountain View Engine 7's been positioned here to protect it.
And for this, local residents sing their praises.
They literally saved probably two of our dwellings yesterday, and it was quite a firefight from what I understand.
And even though firefighters would prefer they abide by the mandatory evacuations,
well, it makes our job more difficult.
That kindness goes a long way with these guys, many working more than 24-hour shifts. And since Cal Fire doesn't expect containment for at least another 9 days, they've got a long fight ahead of them. By air and by land, they're fighting the fire and the wind, and there's no telling which direction it'll blow next. Now, most of the people in the town of Swanton have evacuated, but as you heard, there are still a handful of holdouts. Yesterday, we introduced you to a few people from the town of Bonnie Doon. Actually, there's a bunch of people yesterday who had decided to stay and not evacuate. Well, today, we went back to check on them, and I can tell you, Bonnie Doon is pretty much a ghost town. The smoke has really filled in. It's very difficult to see and to breathe, and I think it's probably a pretty good sign that most folks, at least in Bonnie Doon, have decided these flames are a bit too close for comfort. In Swanton, Julie Watts, back to you.
Okay, Julie, thank you very much.